5:30. Call this meeting of the Whitman Middle School Building Committee to order. If you could please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone this meeting is being recorded for future broadcast and use. Did everyone receive a copy of the meeting minutes for February 28th and March 28th? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Roll call vote. I'm sorry. We have Mr. Scriven and Mr. Essen on the phone. Mr. Scriven?
Yes.
Mr. Essen?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Unanimous, Mr. Bates. That was for both meeting minutes as presented. OPM report, Mr. Bates.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have a lot to report this evening under OPM. I just will point the committee to page number 5 of the OPM report that was distributed as part of your packet. I did tell you at last month's meeting that the MSBA's auditing department approved our budget revision request number 1. That was to transfer $49,000 from our contingency fund into environmental and site. That report that you have in front of you does not reflect that only because this is Mark's report. So in the next report, you will see those line items adjusted. You will see that line item under feasibility, item number 3 will read $82,200. The other line item underneath that will read $1,000. But for those of you that are really paying close attention, will note that in column B, under invoices to date, we are already over basis on environmental and site, even taking into account that revision that we have just done. We have 89 and change invoices that have been submitted to date, and again, our basis of 82.2 thousand. So what that means is, in short, is that we need to do another budget revision request. That'll be number 2. And we will take those funds from the OPM line item, because if you recall, we are our fee came in a bit under budget. Our year total budget for feasibility was 226.8. We came in at 179. So we have roughly $45,000 of contingency in that first line item under OPM. We will draw from that and do another budget revision request. So that's what I wanted to inform the committee of this evening. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes.
And I don't want to jump in front of anyone else in the committee, but Mr. Bates, we do have some ineligible costs.
Yeah, if you note on the sort of footnote there on columns F and G, those columns don't currently reflect all of the invoices that are out there as of right now. Let me go down to the note. Down at the bottom, you see F and G do not include an eligible vendor invoice, is not yet submitted to MSBA, and recently submitted MSBA payment request. What that basically means is that it's not an all-inclusive tally as of right now. So future reports will better reflect amounts in that column.
So am I correct in saying that those amounts have not been rejected by MSBA?
They've not been rejected to date. One very misleading thing that you'll see in that report, if you see line item number 3, environmental and site, what's been rejected is $34,200. That is the amount that was over basis when the district had submitted requests, and we didn't have the funds allocated yet because the budget revision request had not been approved yet. As of, I think it was Wednesday of last week, Mr. Stanbrook had submitted a pro-pay submission onto the MSBA's portal to request reimbursement for payment, and that includes requests that had previously been rejected because we were over basis. So now that we have, again, that budget revision request approved, those should be reimbursed.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Bates?
One other note is just on the topic of the extension. We talked about that in previous meetings, how our feasibility study agreement expires 913 days after being invited. That falls right around the time of the board meeting, October 25th, I think it was. I have reached out to the MSBA first, confirming that the Board of Selectmen voted to approve the fall timeline for the referendum, so they're aware of that. What I don't know right now is whether or not we will actually need that extension request, because the deadline falls so close to the board meeting that it might not be required. But in any case, it will get done, whether it's required or not. And I just want to let the committee.
When you say extension request, are you talking about from MSBA?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so they have to formally grant you the request?
They would have to formally grant us an extension because, as you remember, the feasibility study agreement expires a certain amount of calendar days after having been invited.
Oh, okay, okay.
Remember?
Yes.
So.
That'll be something that we'll hopefully have handled by our
By the
next
next
meeting.
meeting, we'll have a definite answer on that.
Any questions on that from anybody? I know you touched on the Board of Selectmen vote as far as the meeting date for town meeting and the election date. I don't know if you want to continue, if you'd like one of us to.
Maybe committee would be better to speak to it.
Okay. So the Board of Selectmen did vote unanimously at their meeting last week to schedule a special town meeting for October 30th, which would be after the MSBA vote on, was it the 26th or the 25th? 25th?
Yeah.
Of October. So we would have a special town meeting to hopefully authorize the project, and then on November 4th, the following Saturday, would be a debt exclusion vote, ballot vote. So our Board of Selectmen has done that, so that should give us, a very good timeline so that AI3 can get all of their information in, and we can just flow right through the summer into the fall and have everything right on the original type of schedule. Any questions on that from anybody? All right. If you could continue on with your discussion on vote construction delivery method, design bid build versus construction manager at risk.
Sure. So last month, at our last meeting, we've given a presentation on the two delivery methods, construction manager at risk.
Everybody awake?
And the more traditional general contractor delivery method, Chapter 149 in Mass General Law. There are pros and cons of both delivery methods. We had shared the draft, the presentation that was given. We had reshared it to the committee for their re-review. And if there's any questions, I would be happy to discuss it further this evening. We would, if the committee would like, entertain a motion. I'm not formally suggesting a motion, but we would be looking for a motion to approve a direction on that.
And has everybody, I know we had sent out, there was information that was included on the construction delivery methods. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through the differences? And Mr. Bates, if you could, perhaps give us, the 10,000-foot overview once again.
Yep.
My interpretation was that on the delivery method itself, to have a construction manager at risk is for a more perhaps intricate scheduling project.
Right. Construction
if you have to
manager
phase
risk
things.
allows a construction company to get involved in the process during the design phase. You have their input, and particularly on scheduling, logistics, phasing, things like that, where that's really valuable. And then they become the general contractor at the time of construction, as opposed to the general contractor method where the design bids are finalized and we put out what we call the bid documents and we take the lowest bid, the lowest responsible bidder. That's a hard bid in that case. So there's pros and cons, obviously. We do note that the CMR, the construction manager at risk method, comes at a premium. The preliminary estimates that have been provided by AI3, I believe, showed an add of about $5 million to go that direction. What the Inspector General, in analyzing the data over the last several years, has commented on is that the construction manager at risk method is most appropriate, or actually has most value, when you're dealing with a large, phased, logistically complicated project, a renovation project. That is not what this project is. This is a ground-up building project where when that building's done, you're knocking down the old one. It's relatively simple. So keep that in mind as you discuss and make your decision, but we do tend to see more value with the construction manager at risk in a project that's a phased, large phase renovation project.
I'd like to open up the floor for discussion, I guess, first. If anyone has any questions about the differences, or if people feel comfortable. If so, I would entertain a motion, to either go with the general contractor or construction manager at risk, whatever.
I'd like to make a motion to go with the general contractor.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion by Beth and a second by Mr. Curran. Now, any other discussion?
I would just like to ask Bob, what's your thought? My feeling is this is not that type of project. The general contractor is the best way.
Is that design build the cheaper one we're talking about?
Yeah, just for the record.
Yeah, general contractor.
In other words, so instead of paying a construction manager separately, and you would actually go out to bid, and the documents would be prepared by the architect and with the overview from the project manager. Mr. Farrell.
I understand. I guess just for the motion, do we need to say it's does this qualify, or does it have to be the design, bid, build, DBB option? That's my only question.
The official title?
Yeah, that's my only question.
Between GC and DBB.
Yeah, and I did take the motion to be that, but if we'd like, we can just add the clarification, Beth.
Yeah, that's fine.
General contractor utilizing a traditional design bid build approach.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do that, okay. Any more discussion or questions? Okay, we do have to do this.
Fred, I got one question.
Go right ahead.
On that wall. So if we went with a design build and they didn't perform and we had to exercise the bond, we have to start over with new design documents?
When you say not perform, are you talking?
Yeah, if they didn't perform to our satisfaction and they didn't staff the job properly, we had to exercise the bond for that project and remove that and instill another design builder. What would that do to any design documents that we already have? I guess we would have.
Okay, Mr. Bates, you folks would be the ones sitting here in the trailer, so to speak, babysitting the project. What would you do? I'm sure that if I recall correctly, there's a series of steps if something's not being performed properly in order to rectify those. And, I don't know when you would get, to the point of exercising a bond or a non-performance. Have you ever seen that happen?
I haven't dealt with that personally, no. I don't want to comment on it, and I don't know that you folks have either, but the quick.
I was going to say.
In a situation where the general contractor does not perform, there are many stopgaps before that actually occurs. And if it does get to that point, then typically it's a situation where what our experience has been, contractor goes out of business. And so in that case, a bonding company would step in and take over, and then there's a process after that related to getting another general contractor involved in the project. But I've seen that once in 25 years. And so if that's the case, the question also, I believe, asks about the design documents and would they continue to be applicable? And the answer is yes, it would still be applicable and it would still be the process to continue through the construction project to finalization and to occupancy.
Would I be incorrect in saying that the bonding or insurance company would step in, provide another general contractor in conjunction with us, somebody that would be acceptable, and if there was any difference in cost or whatnot, that's all on them. Our original contract stays in place, and the original designs.
I think there's too complex to give an answer related to that, and attorneys would be involved, and bonding company would be involved, and so to answer that question would be extremely difficult, even at this point.
The one time you saw it happen, what were the conditions and what was the result?
Contractor went out of business.
Okay.
This was back in 2000, so 23 years ago. And the bonding company came in, finished the job. The contractor was out. They took over and finished the contract, essentially.
Okay. It wasn't Agostini, was it?
No.
That was the people that built this. Just so people know that joke. Okay, great. Any further questions? Any further follow-up, Mr. Essen?
No, I'm fine. That was it. I would prefer to lean towards the design build. It's just if we had to, execute the bonding company to come in and replace the firm that was awarded the project originally, what would that do to a timeline? That could push everything back another year. I just want to make people aware of it. I don't think that would happen, but it could, Even though we don't want to get those type of number, sometimes it's better to have
Those concerns.
a specification and drawings, not construction documents.
Mr. Bates, you want to?
Just that regardless of which direction we go in with the delivery method, I mean, those would still be concerns. An underperforming contractor, seeing the risk would be the magic bullet to avoid that.
I would think that if we had a general contractor, it's their responsibility to provide the labor and the folks to get the job done.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas if it's a construction manager at risk, we're sort of GCing it ourselves, and then it becomes the onus on us, and we all know the labor pool today. I'd rather it be someone else's responsibility, to make sure that they can get the people here, personally.
We do see a small pool of general contractors that specialize in the K-12 market. We deal with them on a very regular basis, so they're out there, they're very capable.
Great, thank you. Seeing nothing further, we can move to a vote. Mr. Farrow?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous, Mr. Bates. Mr. Bates, AI3, update on community forum number 4. Public Relations.
I suppose number 4 is on me. So we did have our fourth community forum last week. Not quite as well attended as some previous community forums. I don't know what other updates if there's something in particular, Mr. Chairman, that you wanted to discuss.
No, just, if there was anything new that came out of that forum, any further discussion on anything. I would think that in the future, and this is just an idea of mine, perhaps if we hold another forum, we perhaps include a little tour of, certain parts of the building, because start to get that, rolling out to the public. We also believe you folks met with the sports organizations.
We did.
I was there for about 5 or 10 minutes of it.
Yeah, very productive meeting. Got some good feedback from them. And we plan to meet with them again during this design phase. So, yeah, very good meeting. And we're all on the same page there. What else? I think that we might want to just mention that do we want to talk about Mr. Galvin's
Yes, so
videography efforts?
as part of this, we do have the public, where is it? Public relations on here as well, so that's slash after the forum, so please, if you could.
So Mr. Galvin's lent his videography expertise. He and Mr. Frost had visited the school over vacation. They had taken a large amount of video footage of the entire building with the idea that we're going to start releasing a series of videos that go into the existing conditions. They'll be narrated to go over the current deficiencies. I think they're probably going to be videos that maybe in a couple minutes in duration, but it'll be a series of them. They'll be available on the website, and it's I think it's going to be very helpful. I don't know if anyone has any additional things they want to add. Mr. Frost, as a member of the subcommittee.
Yeah, that was our main goal right now, just to get as much information footage as possible. So we're going to start. We have another subcommittee meeting coming up, so we'll start to, now that we know that the vote's in November, we'll kind of come up with a game plan of when to do what, especially over the summer. But yeah, working on that.
Yeah, and the videos, I think, will add a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
I do want to thank Troy. Had sent out an email the other day to the Public Relations Committee, sort of highlighting the areas of deficiencies, so that we can, hone in to be able to show people more clearly as to what we're talking about, and they can see for themselves. I was waiting for the red lights and the war room type atmosphere when you guys were in the electrical rooms.
I let him go in alone, I stayed back.
I don't blame you. But it was very helpful, and thank both you and Mr. Galvin. School vacation week, you're on your own time, so thank you very much. I do want to make sure the committee notes that as well. Any questions on the videos? Okay, moving right along. Designer report, AI3, you're up.
Before we get into the update, just want to expand a little bit on the community forum, and I'll pass it over to Julie to talk about talk through the slides. Although the fourth community forum wasn't that well attended, there are some things that is really important to highlight and talk about. The first is we went through the schedule, updated schedule, and talked about where we are in the process. The second piece was related to the flow chart. We've talked about it before in community forums. It's important for everybody to understand where we are in the process in schematic design and where we're headed leading to the vote in November. We also talked about the preferred schematic report submission to the MSBA and provided an outline and update relative to what was included within that document. An over 500-page document with with backup drawings. The next piece, which is really critical, talking about the preferred option, the project that has been approved by the committee, and the details that are included within that project, the floor plans, the site plans, the opportunities with the site plan and the revised and updated development, the discussions that we had with all of the stakeholders, all the faculty, staff, teachers, and the departments. Julie's going to go through that a little bit more tonight, and how that was implemented into the floor plans for the preferred schematic option that was discussed. And then one key point that we went through during the discussion, it's important to talk about, and we'll continue to talk about this, is how that preferred option relates to the base repair. And as everybody recalls, the base repair is what happens if you do nothing? Meaning, what happens if this project doesn't move forward? All of the $56 million worth of constructional capital improvement repair projects need to occur on that existing building. It won't just sit there. There will be projects that need to occur. So we'll talk about what that means over the next series of months, but we did talk about that in detail relative to the community forum. How the preferred option relates to the educational program. And then we went through, as I mentioned, through the floor plans, and then zero net energy, sustainability, the stretch code, and how the community is moving forward and has talked about in the past the stretch code, the importance of sustainability, and that's something Julie's going to talk about more tonight. But I just wanted to give a little bit more detail as to what was discussed during that community forum, because as we continue through the summer and the fall, we'll have more community forums, and although it wasn't well attended, there was a lot of detail that was talked about, and we'll continue those discussions as we move through the summer. So with that, I'm going to have Julie go through the slides for tonight.
Thank you. So tonight we have a lot of the typical housekeeping items at the beginning. Project schedule overview. The big change with the schedule is at least now we have those town meeting dates and debt exclusion dates identified on our overall schedule. And as was mentioned, in terms of the right now, the MSBA is meeting tomorrow with their board of directors to approve the project from Module 3 into Module 4. Module 4 being that schematic design phase that we've already entered, and that will just be the determination that it's approved into that next module. And then breaking down some of the priorities of what's involved in schematic design as we've been following it. The red arrows tonight just identify some of the items that we'll be discussing as part of this presentation. Programming meetings with staff, those have occurred, and we are already in the process of planning those before the summer and second round of programming meetings. The schematic design documents, we're continuing to push those forward, architectural design, site design. The sustainable considerations, that's of course something that we'll be addressing tonight with your vote of the mass save pathway. And then the establishment of proprietary items, that's another item we'll be discussing this evening, and an introduction into that. And then the proposed construction methodology that you just approved for design bid build, all great aspects of this phase that continue to push it forward. We have identified notable dates. We're identifying building committee meetings, May, June, and July. We'll eventually just need some dates for those to continue to populate the schedule. And then continuing to move forward, August 31st, we are maintaining as our MSBA schematic design submission date. So then getting into school building committee determinations, you've just established that design bid build will be the methodology for construction, and so we can pause to discuss the selection of an energy goal pathway for the project. That would be either the Math Save Pathway 1, which is a commitment to really a low EUI, energy use intensity building, so that's targeting an EUI of 25 or less. The Math Save Pathway 1, they describe it as a commitment to net zero, but we define net zero as achieving that low EUI of 25. So you're not committing to filling the site with solar or anything at this point in time. You're really just committing to a low EUI. And then the payback on that, or at least the incentive, is $2 per square foot. And given that the current gross square footage is approximately $138,000, that would be an incentive one-time payout at the completion of the project of $277,208 approximately at this point. And then additionally, what's a bonus of Pathway 1 is that they do offer an additional post-occupancy bonus of $1.50 per square foot. That would be an additional incentive of $207,906 as a year after the occupancy of the building. And then looking at Mass Save Pathway 2, that's just committing to a reduction in a whole building EUI, so you're not targeting 25 or less, you're really targeting between 26 and 29 for an EUI. And additionally, they do offer an incentive for that as well at $1.25 per square foot. So that would be approximately $173,255 at the completion of the project. Yes.
In addition to on Path 1, in addition to that, are there any other rebates through National Grid, et cetera, for LED lighting, different heat pumps, etc.?
Sure, so the program does offer adders as part of the pathways. There's too many unknowns at this point for us to speak on the incentives that would total as a result of the committee deciding one way or another, depending on which adder. But there are additional incentives, and on top of the utility company rebates, there are additional state incentive and rebate programs as we get further into the phase and future decision making that those could result in as well.
If we're digging, and I don't know if you can answer this, can you associate a cost with the difference between Path 1 and Path 2? And if we're in the process of digging foundations and you want to look at geothermal, for instance, is the cost minimal because you're already digging the hole? Like, how far down do you have to dig in order to receive benefit from, the ground difference in temperature?
Sure, so the amount of digging that would occur in any sort of investigation wouldn't be deep enough to be equivalent to what a geothermal well would be. However, prior to the decision on any kind of system moving forward, we would have, and I can skip ahead a couple slides, so we would ultimately assemble a life cycle analysis per HVAC system specific to the Whitman Middle School project, and so that would help the committee establish what the HVAC system selection is and determinations of how that gets you to the EUI. And the HVAC system, of course, different systems will achieve different levels of that energy use intensity that we're looking for. And so additionally, selecting the pathway does not necessarily commit you to one of those HVAC systems at this point in time. It would really just direct us towards which, it'd be a further directive for which system we would pursue.
Could you have, as an add alternate, different types of HVAC systems? In other words, you build it with one base, but if the bid comes in cheap enough, you have that as an add alternate, such as, like, I believe solar panels can be an add alternate, windmills on the top of a building, because I found out they can't go in the corners, could be another add alternate type of thing. Is that possible?
Yeah, well, to a certain point, we wouldn't want to go through all of the design documents, establishing the design documents, and then switching HVAC systems, for example, from an all-electric to a gas system, because that would affect, it would just snowball the amount of design changes as a result. We could certainly carry, like we've been doing with the PSRS cost estimates, carry the solar and solar canopies as add alternates. So we could carry geothermal as an add alternate to air source heat pumps, for example.
Okay. That's sort of what I was saying.
But we would hope with our analysis in that life cycle cost analysis that we would do over the next month or two, that would sort of send the committee in the direction where we don't need to get all the way through schematic design to then make that determination.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Beth.
So I think on the building committee should know that AI3 is already working with National Grid on this and has already had them in the loop about and has gotten a lot of this information too from them. So they're already giving a heads up to National Grid about what our plans are.
That's a really good point. So we've, in the working group has met with a representative from National Grid, and something to emphasize as well is that if the committee determines that they wanted to select pathway 1 tonight, that doesn't mean that if you don't achieve, or it seems as if the EUI is not going to achieve a 25 or less, you can still move forward with pathway 2 throughout the next phase of the project, so that you're not losing out on that other possible incentive. It wouldn't be that you're committing to pathway 1 and pathway 2, but if pathway 1 does not seem achievable for whatever reason, we could still fall back on pathway 2.
You want a motion, right?
Sure.
Okay. I would like to make a motion that we go with Mass Save Path 1 and shoot for that.
Alrighty. I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second by Mr. Farrell. Any further questions or discussion? Okay. Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Scriven?
Yes.
Mr. Essen?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. Path 1 would be the desire of the committee.
Great, and we will move forward with, continue our communication with National Grid and let them know that the committee has selected pathway 1, and then we will be following up with the memorandum of understanding for that pathway through National Grid, and so that will just require a signature and to get the process started. And then additionally, we will want to schedule over the next month or two what they call an energy charrette, so getting representation of the committee, our mechanical engineers, our energy consultants, Whitman facilities, all in a room together to really start to define what are those project requirements in terms of sustainability. What is it we're trying to achieve? And so that'll be coming up in the next month or two.
Just real quick also, if we are able to obtain 25 or less for EUI, is it? EUI. That also qualifies us for an additional 2% on the entire project from MSBA.
For MSBA, so the 2% for MSBA is related to LEED certification, and
Okay.
so we would be pursuing LEED certification, knowing that that is the incentive as well.
Okay, so 2% of the entire project that's eligible.
That's right.
So if you had, 120 million eligible, it's 2% of that.
That's right.
So, great. Thank you.
And so along with that line of thinking, we have established what we would call an energy goals decision-making tree. So determinations like what level of LEED you're looking to try and pursue, knowing that it's LEED certification, LEED silver, LEED gold, and LEED platinum. That will be a decision for the committee to make in future meetings. And along those same lines, you've just committed to Path 1, so we've put together this decision tree, just identifying some of the future decisions that the committee will also have to make as it relates to sustainability. So just looking ahead to from May to July, that would be when we as the professional team is putting together that life cycle cost analysis to really assist the committee in, making an educated decision on how they'd like to move forward. And then from that, we see the determination on, if you selected an all-electric system, now we have the opportunity to decide, will it be net zero or will it just be net zero ready? Either are prescriptive to the stretch code, so that will be a decision that's required. And then you can see that the tree sort of continues to break down, and some of that is related to additional opportunities for incentives or rebates through the state. So more to come related to sustainability decision-making for sure.
Totally off topic, Brandon.
Yeah.
Don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no worries.
When we get to the point of having that separate energy grouping,
Yep.
would it make any sense to see if we could get a little student committee that could observe to sort of see what we're doing? And that'd be pretty cool to invite them back as juniors or seniors. If the project goes forward, they could actually see it in
Yeah, I would love to get
use.
students involved any way we can, yeah. So, yeah.
As much as we could involve students in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty cool.
And so then the life cycle cost analysis for HVAC system, this is just a sample that we've shown before and we'll be providing in future SBC meetings, something that is relevant to the size of Whitman Middle School. So then moving on from sustainability into an introduction to proprietary items. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our specification process, we typically provide 3 equal products per item or division within our specifications. That's also called the project manual, which will be a part of our schematic design submission documents. But what we do have to identify is if there is a product that has a specific brand name that is essential to the project within Whitman, for example. So if you are already committed to using a specific locking or security system or door closers or egress components within the district that is part of the facilities maintenance team has on hand and typically in their operations and maintenance, we would want to identify those items as proprietary. Something to note is that...
Mr. Farrell?
I just have a question on that, too.
Sure.
So is proprietary the same as compatible?
It would be the same as the same thing that you're using, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
so if what we're saying is, for example, the door locking system that we have, that now deals with badges, it deals with everything.
Right.
As long as we investigate and say, like, per X company can work with Y company, which we have, that we're okay.
Right, yes.
But if you're saying that the Joe Smith card company has exclusive rights, then you need to know that.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so in our specification manual, we would typically have product A, B, and C per item. And what the proprietary items is determining is that we only can use A for this reason. And so we would be working with, it would have to come from the governmental body or Whitman to document the reasons why an item is proprietary. And so we would get that in writing and then ensure that that makes it into our specifications for the submission. I guess just to point out one possible disadvantage of that is just knowing that it can limit competition, which could lead to increased prices. But of course, if a lot of training has gone into the use of an item within the district, or there's already maintenance items in storage available for that, then the cost would be negligible.
I would think we're looking at key access,
That's typical.
wireless access points.
Right, yeah, we have on here security-related components are typical, locks and key systems,
What about
technology.
what about switches and other network components?
And that can be, so what we would also want is just any other items requested by the district, so maybe a conversation with facilities or whomever that, with Tim, and we could.
Technology, I think, would be important.
Yeah, we do not have sole proprietary at this point in time. We have device agnostic, you know what I mean? So we have multiple devices that work within the same system, you know? So we should be, right now, today is what I know, we should be okay for 3 different pieces as long as, you know, whether it's Aruba, whether it's Cisco, whether it's whatever, we're okay.
Great. Yeah, so we can follow up in over the course of now and then through this phase on the determination of those items specifically. And then we just provided some background language from Mass General Law for reference on the proprietary items. So then getting into the design update, we have a few meetings that have occurred that we just wanted to provide overviews of that have been mentioned tonight already. Round 1 of Whitman Middle School staff programming. This was sort of a follow-up on very initial programming meetings that we had done last summer before the design process even began. Now that we've gotten as far as we have with the preferred schematic option, we are returning to Whitman Middle School to discuss more specific details with staff. So specifically looking at where the adjacencies for the programs that are outlined in the space summary, what makes sense to be next to one another. For example, we heard through these that having the STEAM room and the art classroom next to each other has a really positive impact for how they would like to see the educational delivery of those spaces. And so on March 7th, 8th, and 9th, we had met with various administrators, educators, and the building personnel just to explain the current building plan design and site layout, and then get their feedback on what is it that they would need in their specific spaces, more detailed, that we could start to input into our plan. And then the diagram all the way on the right is just showing that as a result of those meetings, we did move some spaces around. We're continuing to move spaces around. It's all a part of the schematic design process. And then we're already looking and working with Brandon to coordinate a second round of programming with staff before the summer break. And then a second milestone or activity that's been affecting the design recently is just that we've received review comments from the MSBA for the preferred schematic report, and they were overall pretty minimal. Just wanted to point out a couple items that would have impacts to the space summary. So one comment that the MSBA had was that in regards to the teacher planning and collaboration space, we with the district had allotted 2,400 square feet to teacher planning and collaboration, which breaks down into 600 square feet per grade level for a teacher planning space. And the MSBA decided that they would participate in 2,060 net square feet of eligible square footage. So therefore the 340 net square feet in excess would be considered ineligible for reimbursement. And so we could offer to the district to determine whether or not we should ultimately cut that 340 or leave it and then pay for the excess that the MSBA has determined to be ineligible. And then they also identified 3 spaces that should be moved from program spaces into what they consider non-program spaces, so those ultimately fall into the grossing factor. And those were the music storage space, the town basketball storage space, and then some changing rooms that we were going to provide for the auditorium. Those would all fall into the grossing factor. And so as a result of those requests, the overall building square footage actually decreases by 855 gross square feet. And then we also have a slide on the site and recreation coordination meeting that John had mentioned occurred. That was right before the community forum. And so what we had discussed in that meeting, represented by the Recreation Commission chairperson was present, Recreation Director, and representation from Whitman Little League Baseball, Whitman Hanson Softball, and Whitman Hanson Youth Soccer. And so we also had our professional team, including our landscape architects and civil engineers, just to get everybody on the same page to understand who's using these recreation and athletic fields. They're highly used, and to understand that frequency of use, as well as the maintenance of the fields, and then for us to just provide an overview for all of those user groups of the anticipated project phasing and what alternatives could be possible during construction.
And I know I brought it up while I was at that meeting. Hanson Middle School, that field's being completely redone.
Oh, great.
And I could have sworn I had said it at that meeting. And it's being done for soccer fields. So that should be a consideration as well.
That's great.
With soccer, they're aware of what's going on. I believe they're looking to resod it, as a manner of getting it so it'll be ready to play on pretty quickly too, so.
And along that line of thinking, we'll just skip to the next slide for a second to remind the committee of the current proposed site plan. So we've identified on here the town soccer field at the front of the school site, and then the baseball, softball fields, where one softball field was included in the PSR cost estimate, the base estimate for renovation, as we believe we would need that space just in constructing the building for laydown area. And then the 3 remaining fields were identified as add alternates. We may, as we become more involved in the design process down the line and the phasing, and have a better sense of phasing, it may result that we need to renovate more than one of those baseball or softball fields. But we will be able to determine that by the end of this phase. And so in that regard, so the softball field, we are anticipating being offline. The recreation department offered a few other alternatives that would be possible while that softball field, or maybe a baseball field in addition, would not be available. And so some of those options were Robinson Field and LZ Thomas Field in Hanson, and then also the possibility of the Conley Elementary School having a field renovated using CPC grant funds. And so what we will do as the design team would just be to consistently keep the rec department up to date on what the phasing plans are, the possibility or timeline of when fields would come offline, and just keeping in close communication with how all of that can flesh out. Other than replacement of the fields that would be required during construction, the existing town fields, so the baseball, softball fields, and the soccer fields, were determined through all of the user groups to not require any scope within the new Whitman Middle School project. So they don't believe that even us carrying them as add alternates is necessary, given that they've invested in recent updates to the soccer field and then the baseball and softball fields. And so related to cost estimating, just one other thing for the fields would be for the school building committee to decide whether they should move forward with the allowance that was included in the base estimate for moving the concession stand, or replace it altogether. And so both of those costs are identified here. We don't need to decide that now, but just something that will be determined in August. And then quickly, just some design updates. So these were the floor plans that were presented at the community forum, and we've continued to move forward with getting kind of more involved in the design. So it might seem like not a lot has changed, but when you get into more of the details, we're really starting to work out the specifics of certain areas. So like, for example, on the next slide, looking at the gymnasium, community entryway, the locker rooms, the PE instructor offices, and toilets for community use, and just identifying even some moves like having a wider corridor outside of the gym, knowing the amount of town use that that area gets so that it's not congested. And so we're kind of continuing to just work on some of those more detailed aspects of the building and refine some of those spaces that are located. Additionally, we've been in communication with the kitchen staff as a result of those programming meetings, and so they identified some design preferences for that, specifically kind of emulating what the high school layout is, and so we've included like a snack bar area and a place to drop off the dishes for dishwash, and so really just getting into some of those detailed aspects. And adjacencies, like making sure health is near the gymnasium and that the special education spaces are on the first floor in some instances. So this would just be a more detailed view on some of those decisions and design decisions that are being made at this time. And then similarly, an enlarged area of the administration suite, coupled with guidance and nurse. We continue to refine a lot of these layouts for what's going to work best for the administrative assistant, for the guidance counselors, understanding their day-to-day needs. When there's students in there, where are they going? And then also identifying security opportunities. So having a transaction window through a security vestibule, and before entry is granted into the building, having those kinds of conversations at this point. Being able to close off the academic wings for after hours use, so that if someone's there for a performance at the auditorium, that they can't go down into a math classroom, whatever the case may be. So we're looking into that level of detail and refinement at this time. And then we've just included the second floor and the third floor plans as well. And so some of these spaces will continue to move around as we continue conversations in future staff programming meetings, but we're definitely narrowing and getting a full understanding of the use and need of the occupants. And then the third floor. And so with that, upcoming events, we have our schematic design submission August 31st to the MSBA, and then town meeting vote would now be October 30th, 2023, and then the debt exclusion vote November 4th, 2023. And that is everything from our end. We've included the beloved QR code in as many places as we can now, just to get some traffic to the website. Thank you.
Any questions for Julie this time? Thank you.
Great.
Moving right along, invoice and bill approvals included in the online packet were the budget and the unpaid invoices. Has everyone had a chance to review them? And if so, I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, motion and a second. George?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Scriven?
Yes.
Mr. Rassen?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. You guys can get paid. Okay, we've already covered the date for special town meeting and debt exclusion vote. Next meeting date in May. Let's take a peek and figure this out.
Monday.
23rd or the 30th? It's the 20, okay, Memorial Day is the 29th, so the 23rd?
Yeah.
Would May 23rd be okay for everyone? Okay. So, May 23rd at 4:30. Right here. Okay. Seeing if nobody else has anything to bring forward, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Farrell?
Yeah. motion to adjourn.
Okay. Seconded by Brandon. George?
Yes.
Fran?
Yes.
Crystal?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Mr. Scriven?
Yes.
Mr. Rossen?
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, we're done. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.